Hi, my name is Abbas Akbar. Sorry, one second. Hi, my name is Abbas Akbar. This is for Rebelution, okay. Hi, my name is Abbas Akbar. This is for Rebelution, a culture and lifestyle magazine. Is that okay? But later, once we end, I'll do for you one more, the whole opening thing again, okay? I'll warm up already, I'll do it back, yeah. Did I grow up in the media industry? I can say that in a way I did, in a way I didn't. My elder brother has been an actor since young. He started acting when he was like in his 20s, and when my brother is 20, I'm 10. Me and my elder brother have a 10-year gap. So I was highly influenced by him. I was exposed to him, and his adventures had a great influence in the way I aspired. And in that sense, yes, I did grow up in the media industry. So as kids, when we are young, we're not very clear about where we want to go. All we have is this passion or this desire inside our hearts to become something, but we're not very clear about what is the exact job scope you would call it. So I wanted to be I realized that whenever I watched a police film, I wanted to be a police officer. Then if I watch a film about space and astronauts, I wanted to become an astronaut. And if I watched a film about gangsters, I wanted to become a gangster. So I realized that ultimately I learned through the course that what I wanted to be was a filmmaker. I wanted to get into different walks of life, different forms of life, and explore different stories. So I come from I would say, a relatively conservative background. I was raised by a single parent, just my mother. My mother and my father went through a divorce when we were very young as kids. So a lot of what I take away comes from my mom and everything that she has imparted towards all of us. Coming from a conservative family, my mom being conservative, so it was always such that everything was new to us. How do I put it? Sorry, one second. Let me just collect my thoughts. So a lot of how we were influenced was actually by my mother and my elder brother. So as kids, we all often have a role model. In my younger, when I was like about 7, 8, 9, 10, the one who had a big impact on my thinking when I was growing up was my elder brother. And that's why when I said that when he became an actor, that had a big impact on me. For the most part, me and my younger brother, we stick together. We were partners in crime, me and Shabir, and we did a lot of fun, mischievous things, like all boys, typical boys. Particularly when we were young, and then when we were teenagers, we have gotten into a lot of trouble together. And I think all that fun, the trouble, the mischievous things that we did helped me as a filmmaker. So my mom, when I say, what do I mean by my mom is a conservative woman? My mom is a conservative woman in the sense that she does not, like every other mom, she does not want us to be experimental with our lives. She wants us to be clear with what we are doing, where we are going, and she wants us to not suffer like any other mother. My mother is someone who was raised in a village back in India. So she was born in Singapore, but she went back to India when she was like about 3 or 5, and then she came back to Singapore when she was 20 again. So you can imagine the kind of mindset she would have. And we, being born and brought up in Singapore, being exposed to so many, a variety of views, opinions, and content and stuff, all that, it was always very distant from my mother's view. So my mom always had this fear that we may go beyond her control for the good of us. I mean, that's how she saw it. From what I recollect, my mother actually had a tough time handling my elder brother. You know, like I said, we were from a conservative family, and then when you say media, and then there is the kind of exposure which conservative parents cannot accept. Like, it comes with all the partying, all the girls, all the attention, and for my elder brother at that age, at that point of time, for my mother to handle all of that was tough. So when she had to handle next me and then my younger brother, all this was I think, when I look back at it, I'm pretty proud of how she handled it. You know, like I said, she's from a conservative background, but she did not really instill those kind of mindsets or ideologies into us. Although she always encouraged us to be cautious, she didn't stop us from experimenting or trying something which we desire for. That is one thing about my mother, which I think it's pretty incredible. That I'm not even sure if I would be able to do that when I grow older to my kids. I started to fall in love with storytelling when I started to draw comics. When I was about in my Sec 3 or Sec 2, I started to draw comics, and drawing comics was a way of escapism for me. I wasn't really performing well with my academic studies. The only lessons which attracted me the most was history, English. History, because it's all about stories. You know, so much of stories which you read and you hear, that captivated my imagination. But everything else wasn't really, I found it extremely boring. And then one day I got caught by my teacher, English teacher, I'm not too sure who was it. They caught me with the storybook, and then they brought it to my mother and my elder brother. They couldn't see that this meant to me a lot. At that point in time, they took all my comic books, so many of them which I drew. They took it and then they threw it away inside the rubbish bin. But I believe here is where I started developing a love for storytelling. That progressed into filmmaking. My favorite approach to delegating on set, as a filmmaker, my favorite approach is that I always have enriching discussions with my actors. I have enriching discussions with my DOP, with my team. I have a lot of discussions. I am very collaborative in that sense, and my discussions, I don't keep them superficial. I'm not the kind of a filmmaker whereby I always instruct people. I expect people to have discussions and then to understand the objective of what we're trying to achieve. So, and I also strongly believe that the moment we understand the objective, and a lot is about all of us trying to strive and trying to understand what we're trying to achieve. The moment everybody understands what we're trying to achieve, it's more easier. People know how to make their own decisions. People know what would work, what would not work, and I think it is so vital, and it has always been a part of all my projects, and all my actors, all my DOPs, all my colleagues, everybody who has worked with me, they've seen this part of me, which I have always repeated again and again and again in every project. Not every time it may be successful, because, like I said again, this is collaborative effort, and everyone's contribution matters to make a big impact on the final result. Typically, I don't pick the team based on what they can deliver. how it all starts is that when we pick actors, or when we do pick a team, particularly actors are very crucial to express the story. I don't believe that I have achieved this every time. I've done it properly every time, but I believe, but there is an example whereby when I was reading a book about a book on The Godfather, and then when the reason to why they casted Al Pacino, one of the reasons was because of his eyes, and the studio was against Al Pacino because he was too short, but the director Francis Ford Coppola and his wife were confident that he could nail the role, and that confidence comes from the fact that the actor will be able to interpret the story. If anyone else was in Al Pacino's shoes, it will always be, I'm very confident that nobody can express what he expressed with his eyes. So I believe that actors are very important to express the story, and often when I cast them, I'll always think in the back of my head, like, will they be able to express the story, the script, what's happening properly. That is how I begin with. So as much as possible, when it comes to managing the time of production, what I do is that I actually I have a short breakdown. I create short breakdowns. In ideal conditions, I have storyboards, I've got my short breakdowns. I do my research in the sense that I would pay a visit to the location, and then I would discuss with my DOP, where could we frame this, and then if possible, I would even bring my actors, and then I would do some rehearsals on set. Now, these are ideal conditions, and I did these for my short films, and then for my feature film, I did all of these, but not especially when you are doing broadcasts, when you are running after your telecast dates. Not all these are not possible sometimes. So we have to find alternatives, and the alternatives are, it's pretty straightforward. We have to be on set, and we have to figure it all out there, and then just film it at the best that we can. So when it comes to managing our time, we are very strict in not wasting any time. That's to begin with, that's one. And then two is, we will rehearse, make sure we are clear, there is no uncertainty or any form of blur on set. Everybody is clear about what they are doing. We rehearse with our artists, and once the artists are clear, the camera department is clear, and then we go for the kill. We think that this is one of the best ways to ensure that we save time. And if a scene is supposed to take like 2 hours or 3 hours, it takes 2 or 3 or 4. It doesn't become 5 or 6. From my understanding, the most important quality for a film director or a filmmaker is his ability to interpret the script. I think this is the most important. Fundamentally speaking, a filmmaker or a director is somebody who knows visual language. He knows visual grammar, and if he reads in the script that the character is feeling guilty, the actor cannot be holding on to a card called guilty. There is no way something like that's going to happen. The director must work with the actor to make him understand why the character is guilty, and that guilt must be manifested in the actor's eyes. So if the guilt is not projected, if it's not shown in the camera, then a crucial piece of information which the audience used to build and experience the story is lost. So I always believe that a strong director or a good director, or the most important skill for a director, is the ability to interpret the script visually. Yeah. It was never a hobby for me. from the very beginning. When I started off, it was already, when I was a camp assist, it was a hobby. So I never, for some reason I was very clear. I wouldn't say for some reason I was very clear. When I was young, at about 13, 14, 15, when I was at that age, I was totally convinced deep down inside me that filmmaking is what I'm going to throw myself into. But there were times in my life where I wasn't confident that I would be able to make a living out of filmmaking. And those were times whereby I was, almost there to quit the industry. There were such times. And I was even about to change my industry. There were times, and they happened like twice in my life at least, I would say. But one thing was for sure, it's just that I'm a very heart-driven person. If I cannot find the desire or the passion to do something, I cannot excel in it. But if I find the desire and the passion to do something, even if it's the worst job in the world, I'll do it very well. So my heart always was towards filmmaking, at my worst and at my best, always towards filmmaking, and that's why it was never a hobby. It was always more than a hobby for me. So in recent times, I've been putting a lot of thought into as artists, how we handle appreciation. So when I reflect, I realize that appreciation is like currency for artists, and if they don't feel appreciated, then sometimes I would even say that appreciation is even more important than payment for devoted artists. But when I put thought into it, I realized that it's like a double-edged sword, because sometimes if you do great work and if you're looking for appreciation, if it's unappreciated, then you feel discouraged. And you feel discouraged, then the next work you want to do, you may not feel the passion, or you may not feel encouraged to do it as how you could potentially do it, because you that fear inside your mind that at the end of the day, even if I were to put in all the effort, it still may not be appreciated. That could linger in your mind. So when I was young, yes, I was appreciation driven. When people come and appreciate my work, I take that as a validation, and then I tell myself that I'm going to work harder on the next one. But as I grew older, I realized personally, I felt that I should not be like that. How I should be is that whether it's appreciated or it's not appreciated, you should strive to give your 101% and make it proper. So if somebody comes and appreciate my work and then they tell me that it's a great piece of work, today I go into this Zen mode. I like, okay, thank you, great. But I do not let that dictate my heart. That's, I think, how I handle it now. So as a filmmaker, I don't. As a filmmaker, I've never really observed or tried to keep track of my own style. I'm always asking myself, what does the story need at that point of time? And sometimes I even think that maybe having a style might not be a good idea. So what I try to do is I try to ask myself what the story needs, and then once I identify what it needs, I work backwards from there. So at the end of the day, I see myself as somebody who fulfills the script and gives it what it needs. The concept of Thiravaathiman is actually not mine. The concept belongs to Malini. When I learned about the concept, of course, I found it interesting, and I found it something which is quite exciting to execute. For filmmakers particularly, you know, executing a project, you know, traveling from one project to another project, as much as we want to have fun making it, we also know that walking through projects is an experience on its own. So I felt that making this would be fun, it would be memorable. And when I heard the concept from her first, I thought we should give it a shot. We should try and try something new. So, Thiravaathiman, there were several challenges when we tried to create Thiravaathiman. First of all, we had to execute something which is like, you know, which belongs to a bigger budget within a smaller budget. So we had to scale down our efforts. Like we know that we cannot achieve the full potential of the idea or the concept or the script, but we can definitely achieve something, a scaled down version of that. So that itself was a challenge to begin with. Secondly is that when it came to Thiravaathiman, the characters were tough to interpret. All characters had to be serious, but they cannot be, I mean, they had to be fun, they had to be like, we took inspiration from films like Home Alone. Characters are actually not too serious, but at the same instance, they are not in a way whereby you can't feel a connection towards them. So for Thiravaathiman, all characters had this, like, how would you call it, this kind of a playfulness within them, and they were all made not to be too serious as well also. So it was tough trying to craft the characters for Thiravaathiman and to execute them, whether it was Sitara, whether it was Tombu, Onyx, Thiravaathiman, Guna, Karivati, all characters, they were challenging in their own form. And thirdly, of course, also it's the timeline. We had to execute the project within a very short timeline. So it was extremely challenging and tough, but somehow we pulled through it. So one of, I think, I wouldn't say advice, but my opinion is that to always focus on striving to improve your craft. And that is the real, I think that is the only thing which is permanent. Everything else is will fade. Everything else will fade. It's important that no matter what, we should always be focusing ourselves into our craftsmanship, how to improve it, where we are weak at, what we can do to strengthen new areas. This should be our focus, not the appreciation, not the attention, not the popularity, definitely not the all the fun that you get out of it. Of course, you need the fun when you're making it, but all these things are not your focus. Your focus should always be improving yourself as a craftsman. Hi, this is Abbas Akbar. Sorry, screw it up. Hi, this is Abbas Akbar. This is for Rebelution, Culture and Lifestyle magazine, or a Culture and Lifestyle magazine? A Culture and Lifestyle magazine, okay. Hi, this is Abbas Akbar. What makes me happy?
One word.
Being reasonable makes me happy. Staying reasonable keeps me happy. It does. I think you should not be ruled by emotions or desires. You should be ruled by reason and logic. That keeps me happy.